When I was a kid, I thought TVs might be portals to other worlds. That if you squeezed yourself small enough and you broke through the glass, you could help Fox defeat Andross. It's a heavy page to turn growing up, and unfortunately, some childhood friends have to stay on their side of the screen. Becoming an adult carries a bounty all its own. Things like experience, confidence, faith, skill, and wisdom all come with age, but all the while it remains impossible to reach your old friends. Or so I thought, for 25 years. I had another childhood friend who I looked up to, one who modeled bravery and humility in a way that is rare. He gave me the answer a long time ago. I just never listened.
How'd you do that?
Work out, plenty of rest, eat your green vegetables.
That's what my mom is always saying. I just never actually believed her.
I've solved how to cross over, but we have another problem now. By royal decree of the CRT gods, to be allowed to stay, I need to prove myself and perform a good deed with this new power in order to stay on their side of the screen. The question is what? It spit me out somewhere on the eastern shore of Lake Michigan, so I have a long walk home, but at least that gives me some time to think this through. I think I might have an idea. I thought of a big problem we have these days, and I think I can fix it with this new portal. If you're someone who is affected by BLS, my heart goes out to you. Hang tight, I might be able to help. If you aren't aware, BLS stands for boring lens syndrome, and unfortunately it's becoming more and more common. The symptoms can be mild or intense, depending on the case, but there are some telltale signs. Obsession with smooth bokeh, no chromatic aberration, no distortion, no flaring, no field curvature or bokeh distortion, and most severe of all, sharpness at all costs. In order to understand these symptoms, we need to do some tests. I invited an old enemy over for the afternoon, a lens I have a long-standing rivalry with. I've gone on record calling the RF 50mm 1.2 my least favorite lens of all time. Nearly everything I believe in when it comes to optics, he seems to advocate for the exact opposite. It's really annoying. I think lenses should be fairly priced. He thinks $2,500 is fair for a plastic prime lens. I think sharpness is overrated. He thinks sharpness is everything. I think imperfections create personality. He thinks a lens should be optically perfect. I think an out-of-focus background should communicate depth. He thinks a background should look like the wrong side of a tropical shower curtain. In order to work through our differences, we need to talk about them. I asked the RF50 to grab a shot so I can try and explain my grievances. Okay, fine. Here's the deal. Personally, subjectively, in my own opinion, I think an image with too much sharpness can look kind of brittle and cheap, and I think that's the case here. I think we're overdoing it. There's so much micro and mid-tone contrast in my wife's face that it looks like it has a higher level of texture and a more severe tone to the skin. There's no smooth edges, no blooming, no glow, no depth. I get it, this lens has great autofocus and stuff, and maybe you would want maximum sharpness and pop for a photo, but we're exclusively talking about video here. The image, to my eye, is easily one of the flattest I've ever seen. On more than one occasion, I've mistaken a photo taken on this lens for portrait mode on an iPhone because it looked so two-dimensional and unnatural. Another aspect of this is bokeh quality, which is another area fraught with differing opinions. I think bokeh is one of the best places for a lens to say something, to provide some beauty or personality. Some like watercolor waxiness, some like oil painting texture, and what I find incredibly boring is to achieve neither of these and instead go for a perfectly smooth bokeh, which can flatten an image even more. This may be the worst case of BLS I've ever seen, but it isn't exclusive to the RF 50mm 1.2 either. This is widespread and is worse than I thought. But I think I can help.
With the whole line of EOS lenses. Hit it, Andre.
Image is everything.
EOS Rebel and lenses from Canon. So advanced, it's simple.
Sometimes things appear to be broken, so we try our best to fix them. But paradoxically, at the end of the day, we find the more perfect version to be worse, so we try again. Each iteration on the perfection goose chase will lose a bit of its soul, until we reach the end of the line with something that gleams with perfection, but no longer bears a beating heart, no longer has opinions, no longer has a point of view. Reversing the tide should equal the inverse. With each step into the past, we'll be trading a piece of perfection for a slice of soul. So I use the TV to go back to 1993. EF mount is growing in popularity, and a different type of legend sat on the throne. A lens that cut thousands of teeth and laid the bricks of more careers than can be counted, all the while bearing a heavily opinionated look, a look that is full of character, I dare say. Behold the Canon EF 50mm f1.4 USM, often referred to as the Goldring 50. I think that looks much better. There's still plenty of sharpness, but it's tempered and doesn't look clinical. Highlights bloom in a beautiful glow at times, and the background shimmers with an undercorrected spherical aberration, creating that distinctive soap bubble look. I think it gives shape to the background instead of condemning it to a lifeless wash, and subjectively, I also think it looks really beautiful. This lens is still insanely fast at f1.4, but the background plays a bit more of a role here. Chromatic aberration is all over the place, which I don't mind. It's another attribute that creates personality in the lens. Here we have only 7 total lens elements versus the RF's 15, which to my eye creates more of a 3D look. It's not the deepest looking lens I've ever seen, but at least there's some perceived depth to the image, and focus transitions are much smoother versus the severe green screen look of the RF. There's something else really funny about the Goldring 50. Just like an imperfect house guest would, he brought a friend, his cousin actually. The Goldring 28mm f1.8. I heard the Goldring 85 was invited too, but he couldn't make it. You can tell they're related because they seem to share the same DNA to a degree. There's significant chromatic aberration, undercorrected spherical aberration, low levels of sharpness, blooming, low contrast, and I love it dearly. Wide-angle lenses with character are surprisingly hard to find, and I think this might be one of my new favorites. It has such an interesting look, and I really love Right now, the RF 50mm 1.2 will run you $2,499 USD before taxes, and somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,800 used. The EF 50mm 1.4 will run you $429 brand new, and less than $200 used, most of the time in the neighborhood of $150. There are benefits to the new system, like silent and quick autofocus, but that seems to be how BLS gets spread around. These days, I'm feeling more and more that effort matters, that context matters. The end result will always be the end result, but I think we feel more than that. The world around us is imperfect and hard to put into a box, even though it's our job to do so. Light is infinitely complex, infinitely beautiful, unpredictable, always changing, just like everything else down here. Trying to capture that world, trying to capture stories playing out within that world with a tool that is designed to render everything with crystal clear perfection with the lowest amount of effort as possible by the person using it, the artist, the human, feels off to me. There's so much more a lens can do besides sit on a shelf. They can, and indeed have in the past, moved hearts by the millions. They can reveal beauty and evil, good deeds and bad. Like my TV, they themselves are time machines, but they're only tuned to go back into the past, with one catch. In order to travel back to a specific time, someone, anyone, had to be there first, and they had to look around and decide, I think this is worth capturing. If that has to be me, I want to do it with a lens that at worst has some imperfections, but at best maybe even reveals something about the user. A perfect tool serves the user in creating a thing. You'll probably end up with a perfect thing. One might ask, why is this thing perfect? And I don't think that's an interesting question at all. An imperfect tool serves the user in creating a thing too. But that thing could end up lopsided, uneven, blurry, selfish, distorted, burnt, cracked, broken. One might ask, why was this thing intentionally made with so many faults? And I think that is a question worth asking.